I sense a need to beautiful, isn't it? I'll put it down.
Kia ora koutou, and welcome to this deliberations meeting of the Cromwell Community Board to consider the racecourse management plan. This is, of course, a reopening of a meeting that we adjourned last week. So we'll get on with our agenda, and we do have apologies today from Mary McConnell and Neil Gillespie for lateness. He's getting off the flight and is hoping to make it as soon as possible through from Queenstown. But we will continue without him. We do have our mayor joining us online as well, hopefully this afternoon. So can we just move on? So can we just move those apologies? And I will go straight over to hear what you have to bring to us this week. Obviously, we had all of our agenda and all of our papers sitting with us last week, so you're giving us a reminder of what we've heard and seen, and then we're going to have a look at changes that are being considered in the draft management plan before we go into our deliberations.
Kia ora koutou. Today's meeting is the second part of the Cromwell Community Board's deliberations on the draft Cromwell Racecourse Reserve Management Plan. It follows the hearing of oral submissions held last Tuesday, the 19th of August. You are being asked to consider all submissions, both written and oral, and to deliberate on staff recommendations. As part of this process, we took the opportunity to seek feedback on the current and future use of Anderson Park and Alpha Street Reserve. Our next slide. These there when you get around. While those reserves are not part of this plan, the insights have helped inform our wider planning approach. The plan is still in its draft form. We are not locking in built design or committing to construction, and no funding is attached at this stage. Budget decisions would be made separately through future long-term plan or annual plan processes. The purpose of today is to confirm the strategic direction and policy framework of how this reserve should be managed and developed over time. The reserve management plan sets a long-term vision, objectives and policies to guide how council manages the Cromwell Racecourse Reserve. It's a spatial plan and it provides for future growth in both active and passive recreation while balancing that with existing uses. It responds to population growth and the current shortage of sports fields and income. After I have finished speaking, we're going to put the track changes version of the draft plan on the board, and we're going to make changes to the plan as deliberations take place. Next slide, please. Okay, so who did we hear from? We consulted for 8 weeks and we received 391 submissions, 363 of which were from adults and 28 from youth. Last Tuesday, we listened to approximately 30 oral submissions from individuals and organisations who spoke to their written submission. Of the 264 respondents who provided demographic information, 55% were from the Cromwell Ward, 30% from the Vincent Ward, and 7% from outside of the district. What was included? We've broken the submissions down into 4 groups: the current users and stakeholders, neighbours, potential new users, and current field users. Next slide, please. What is being recommended? So now we're going to work through the key recommendations and proposed changes, starting with Anderson Park and Alpha Street Reserve. It is important to note again that these 2 reserves don't form a part of the reserve management plan. It is recommended to retain the existing field layout at Anderson Park and Alpha Street Reserve. It is also worth noting that we've received feedback on detailed design aspects for both these reserves, which are useful. It's been noted down, but we're not discussing these matters any further, seeing as these 2 reserves don't form part of the. Next slide, please. Now focusing back on the draft plan itself and returning to the Cromwell Racecourse Reserve. We heard from several submitters that council should consider other locations for sports land. However, as you know, no other council owned land in Cromwell is large enough and suitable to support 8 sports fields and other associated facilities. We also heard suggestions to place the sports fields in other parts of the Cromwell Racecourse Reserve. Each of these options were considered, but not progressed due to access limitations, lacking facilities, or not having enough space to fit the required field sizes. Some submitters suggested commercial activities like camping or paintball. These were not included due to space constraints and a lack of compatibility with other users. We received a range of suggestions on matters like planting, lighting, fencing, gates, bins, and irrigation. These are more detailed operational matters and have been recorded and will be considered at the detailed design stage of the plan or their operational processes. And next slide, please. The majority of submitters at the meeting last week believed solutions could be found where both ball sports and equestrian activities could coexist on the site. We heard from existing equestrian users with concerns raised about the compatibility of equestrian activities with other sports, though, as well as the risk of further displacement. There were also concerns about the realignment of various areas, so the focus is on how we do it right. At the same time, we heard support for the council's vision, particularly the hub approach. There was clear feedback that it is done to do it well. The key recommendations are as follows. Retain the draft plan's intent to preserve equestrian use. Proceed with the proposed medium and long-term layout. Retain provision for expanding from 4 to 8 sports fields in the long term, subject to funding and demand. No change to the timing of the proposed indoor multi-sport facility, which will require a separate feasibility study and funding process. Retain space for storage and club rooms as shown in the current layout. Use detailed design planning to address concerns raised by submitters, including separation of uses, infrastructure, amenities, costs, and clarified governance. So council will manage the sports bookings and Central Lakes Equestrian Club will manage equestrian bookings with the coordination between the two. And to update the dog access, the dog policy to align with council, to update the policy specific to dogs in the reserve management plan to align with council's existing dog policy and Bible. So now the next steps are we're going to put the draft plan up on board and have a discussion in relation to submissions and staff comments. So once we've received your direction today, staff will make any necessary changes and prepare final documents for the September meeting. Here to support the board during deliberations and can clarify any aspect of the plan or community feedback as needed.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you pulling that together to help us make some sense of the things that we've heard. And obviously, we've heard a range of things from a range of people with differing viewpoints and differing levels of concern. I think that the one of the key things that you've highlighted for us is that this is a management plan, that there is no detailed design on here, that there's for any progress or action to be taken in putting sports fields onto this piece of land, there's still a lot of work to do. So careful consideration with the equestrian community, careful consideration with our current sports fields and grounds within the town centre, and really careful look at our stakeholders and who's affected by the changes that we've been made. Has anyone got any further questions at this point?
Just want to acknowledge how much work we've taken and not always the easiest to ask a question that we don't quite know what we're trying to find out at the start. And I think there's been some really good conversations. We've got the biggest scope out of this, and I can just acknowledge that Anderson Park and Mount Street and you've heard a lot about things that aren't what we're trying to address today, but it's given us a lot that the next board and council would be very well set to move forward with. Really good engagement, really good conversation. I think you've done a sterling job of it, so good job. 'Cause it wasn't easy, and there's been some interesting conversations along the way, I'm sure. But yeah, it's been good to be involved with. I think that's it. People can't say that we haven't tried to get every opinion out there and listen, and I think that's come across as really earnest. Good job, man.
Be good that the board's been involved from the start as well. The drop-ins and the planning sessions and that's sort of got
I agree. And I think the really clear understanding that as we look at this, it is a strategic draft about possibilities for future development. It is not a a detailed design plan that says this is exactly what's going to happen. It's us making some decisions that help us look at a vision for sport field provision and racecourse management over the next 13 years, not in the short term. Yeah, very much so. Okay. Audie, shall we flip to you and your track changes?
Yeah, bathroom fits on.
Well, let's do it in a careful way. Just as an update, Neil's flight has been delayed, so he would be unlikely to be here before 4 p.m. So we'll see.
So the first bit's just that's just a change of process. So we've got draft plan, now we're talking about draft plan. So that's just some words we don't. That's not changing in intent. So that's keep going in the timeline. Here's what Maria's just put up before. So that's just timeline where we are.
Yeah.
The other end, if you're trying to notes on yours and you want to put something in, it's just some changes. It's substantial, but it's changed. Background is just a little tidy up the words there. That's not really changed anything either.
Change from horse racing to equestrian activity.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Just a bit more.
Yeah.
Scope in here and a bit about population. Nothing really young happens or population. That's the timeline. Dictate that. History's a history. Release current lease we have, and we've got some.
Can you remind me of the terms of that lease? Sorry.
7 years, with 7 years, 2035 it finishes. Yeah. And the other ones we need a wee bit of information from the Western Club on those. That's some leases.
So if we go back up to those subleases, so it's currently
For
the
snow line rams.
Yeah.
And others for those.
Crazy, and we heard from both of those groups last week.
Okay, that's
Sorry, could I go back? I thought somewhere I read that it was the lease ended in 42.
yes, so.
That's 35. And
So including the right to renew.
Yeah, so there's a, somebody who did the lease didn't quite add up the numbers of sequence, right?
Okay. That was 35.
7 times take, right?
Yeah.
That's the tricky one, that is.
Some years ago. It's keep going, thanks, Sarah. No changes here. And so we heard a little bit about Joseph Landers from the Cherry group. So we have acknowledged that there's a neighbouring horticultural and agricultural activities, and they do things along the lines of what they do, like spraying noise and things. So we've just acknowledged that, not that we can the plan can influence what's outside, but we just acknowledge that we do neighbours.
Oh, sorry, there was something there.
That was this is just
Included,
a bit
yeah.
of typos, good stable, so it's just about buildings, the existing buildings. And the next bit is also a little bit about the activities and the increased vehicle movements, and we've talked to Brody about that. So as that happens, they'll get speed limits and other traffic calming devices if required. So just as they would with any development, new road or another road, I should say. And that's a little bit about the underpass, which will be happening at some point shortly. Okay. Don't know exactly when, and that will alleviate some of that off-road access. Oh, yeah, take off over
Can
there.
you go back up? So, that will be triggered, of course, when Shannon Farm, when they've sold
They
whatever
get some
required amount of.
Yeah, and then that's pretty imminent, so
yeah.
I think you'll get some update and maybe after.
Someone will get an update.
Someone.
Positive.
Do we
It's three able to give an update.
do we know where the, you know, the exit of that is?
There's not been designed, even described yet, so it's
It's likely to be on the south side of Redstone.
All right, thanks.
And that's just about, as Maria summarised earlier, the
There's another spelling error there. Committee.
It's British.
Yeah, it's another A.
so that's, apart from the spelling, that's essentially saying that council regard to the sports side of it, and the public duty balance side of doing it. And we try and we do a sort of an agreement that we make that work.
Is it a question club or a question committee?
It's the Equestrian Club.
Oh, it is Central Equestrian Club.
Yeah.
That's the wrong word altogether.
Okay.
It is easy to spell, absolutely.
Yep, that's good, I think. It's recreational sites and other recreational users that use it from time to time. It's not all just equestrian.
Can I just say, I don't know that the Central Lakes Equestrian Club actually use the reserve, do they? They manage it, but they don't actually have any function out there at all.
Well, they use the race course itself is on the reserve, isn't it? So they do use that and the buildings.
But then aren't each of the race meetings actually run by the various racing clubs rather than the equestrian club?
Yeah.
So their stakeholder is probably the better description, so a stakeholder, not a user.
Right.
They're representative of various groups of users,
Yeah.
So should that, okay.
and they sit more in the government space.
Yeah.
So
So is the word used the right word then?
That's my
Yes.
question.
Maybe we could either split them outside of it or change the word users to separate, yeah. Yeah, good solution.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, cool.
semantics, I know, but
No,
Well, no,
it's important, that's an important.
the track changes. Okay. It's about low cost, I'm not quite sure.
Oh.
They do pay something.
Mm. Yeah. And that's important because we did have people who presented on the use of the land for events. And so that is definitely, it's always been a piece of land that can be used for events. So new people coming along would have to liaise surely with the Central Lakes Equestrian Trust at this point, a club, not trust. But they're a club, a trust, they're a committee, they're a club to ensure that their event was within keeping of the use of the land. That was just taken out of the draft, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's. Right, yeah. We do get more, so standard, but still the.
We just pause there for a second. So it's on the pony club cross country course. The reserve includes a cross-country course used by the Cromwell Pony Club. We've heard that there's much wider use than just the Cromwell Pony Club on it, right?
Yes, that's true.
Probably falling a bit short to say that.
I guess we can do a cheap then, maybe read.
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Yeah, I think that at least to say that pony clubs across the district or equestrian users from across the wider central Otago Queenstown Lakes
Yeah.
district.
Okay.
Is it a pony club cross-country course?
Yes. It's owned by Secret Otago Pony Club.
It is, so it is pony.
And Cromwell is a branch. It's not Cromwell's, it's Secret Otago's. And it's used by anybody within New Zealand really that want to bring horses.
I think we'll just touch that on September. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, just, it's no longer the,
What's no longer there?
Yeah, there isn't. There
there's no, whether
is.
it was taken out of full funds.
Yeah, it does say that it was constructed and is fence square. No, I think that's not used, but yeah.
There's no fence, there's nothing,
It's been disbanded, hasn't it? Yeah.
it's all.
It has reverted to ground.
Yeah, well, we're ahead of us because we've already.
Just tighten up the wording to make it obviously isn't clear enough.
That there was a previous all-weather arena. That's
Yeah,
now
but it's
reverted to grass.
just-
Yeah,
And we're suggesting that goes to your.
that's okay, yeah.
There's nothing.
Much relocation, was it?
No, a re-establishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, re-establishment would be a better word, that it could be re-established in
Yeah.
area for future use. Yeah. Isn't that 57?
I see it. It's actually a concentration camp. It's this the check with the
So we've just broken this down into the medium and longer term. Just to be clear.
Here's a lyric actually got longer than that.
Yeah, so the idea of this was just to, I guess, following consultation with guys that we have been clear enough. So we've tried to make it really clear, what's being proposed.
I think the demand for the sports fields, which is what brought this whole thing on, is probably pretty logical. That you do a stage 1, stage 2, if that's how it's going to happen, but putting a time frame on the indoor sports facilities is a much smaller footprint on the whole reserve and subject to a whole different feasibility and funding process.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it needs to be tied to any time, let alone a long term.
Yeah,
Good point. We can take that out of the timeline and just have it. as
I
line
think it's a completely separate conversation at this point, yeah. And because our community is saying to us that's something that they would like bumped up. And we probably need to consider whether this is the right space for it or what else might work. Because we did have a couple of suggestions that showed that type of development from the people keen to see development at Anderson Park.
I think to be clear for this plan, doesn't, at the time, it doesn't mean it's going to go there.
No, we know that, yeah, that there's nothing in here that's detailed design. These are suggestions of what may happen in the future, yeah.
So if you take out your timeline, what's going to be a trigger effect to look at feasibility? Because even though the timeline's not relevant, it's something that causes a trigger effect when we want to look at it. And if you take that out, then it's just an open-ended conversation and there's no real trigger effect.
The timeline's so far away for that, because it's
But
2045,
point of
that it's,
conversation, right?
yeah,
So they're going, okay, that's too far out. We now need to bring that
Yeah,
forward.
okay.
Look at that. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah.
I wouldn't want this to get lost in translation.
yeah, okay. fair enough,
Or you bring it to the early one and get it out further.
yeah.
It could be a default measure.
Yeah,
Because it clearly there's some pressure as we heard, whether that turns into reality and affordability, who knows?
Does it need to say provided or proposed? And the medium term 4 fields are proposed on the northern end of the racecourse.
Could say either. Yes.
Yeah,
Right,
The proposal provides. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like the wording was, yeah.
yeah. I know, it's semantic, but it is more about
No,
saying
yes,
we're
no, but-
proposing this, not
Yeah.
it will definitely be provided here.
yes,
Yeah.
that's.
The same with this one.
Suitably working.
Can it?
Provision for, no,
Yeah, that
provided for.
proposed, provided, provision. Potential. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
It's all right. I'm just wondering what the light blue area in section, the light blue section in area 4 is. Is that the existing building?
So that's for that horse breed and we just talked about.
That's the all the arena.
Either covered,
Oh, right.
either covered or uncovered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that doesn't exist?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's where it would be moved
Somewhere.
to. That's where a re-establishment of an all-weather
Yeah.
arena could be. This. So that's a provision for further equestrian development.
Yeah.
Grant.
Okay. That's a bit of a hub really. Blue. It's just describing that.
I guess the focus there was to actually explain the concept of a sports hub a little bit, because that term is like a sports hub is something that, whereas that Sports New Zealand refer to, and, yeah, should make that clear.
May not have universal understanding.
Yeah, and that last bit at the bottom is really important, that the layout maps are spatial only and not detailed designs. They're just intended to guide that thinking as we get to the point in the future where we're triggered to need more sports fields, that we go, okay, we've looked at this, is this still feasible?
Is it still the right?
Is it still the right place? Is it still the right way to do it? Yeah.
All of those questions.
It's again, clarifying standing rooms and other bits and pieces that are allowed for. Yeah, there is. Just maybe that's an opportunity of what we just talked about it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Down it if you want.
yeah, no, that all reads fine, yeah.
Okay.
That cross-country course wording again says, may require reworking of the cross-country course. I think it definitely would, wouldn't it?
And that would definitely require people with expertise in that area to be a part of that.
Engaged, yes.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah, it's spelling out. But more detail on what some of those bullet points and what's on the next meeting, like key pathways. Building up and allow some building upgrades and improvements where required, when required, so. And that's again, we talked about the centre of the,
Mhm.
racetrack, so it's like, this is flexible space with no real. Or other community or equestrian if required, when it's required.
Could read the last paragraph, sorry.
Yeah.
It's being slow. Yeah, and there's that important piece about the type of events being in collaboration with the Central Lakes Equestrian Club.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's again, just to clarify that where the parking is, that the room for it to expand this basic expands. And then formal and informal parking.
Yeah, and of course, if there's cross-country events on and there are sports fields there, then parking may happen on those sports fields like it does at
Yeah.
Alpha Street or parking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. We had it in choice.
No, so just to clarify, and I, so we, first we look at what's happening now or what exists, and then we go to the future. So some topics are covered twice because we give a bit of a general, this is
Mhm.
the general overview, and now this is what's proposed.
Yeah.
Which is more relevant for the building changes, for example. That's why some things come up.
Yeah.
That little bit, I guess, was about the act. We should work on getting that.
Yeah.
Rescinded, it's not major.
Yeah.
It's just saying that. We'll work on it.
Yeah.
And then the irrigation, that was about water and supply and demand, supply and demand.
Yeah, and that was definitely something that came up, wasn't it? That some sort of water management plan needs to definitely be in place in order to ensure all users have got equitable access. Yeah. Yeah.
Improve lots of things.
Yeah.
Sports are also that. There's areas as well.
Yeah, we strongly got that message about the cross-country course that more water would mean an extended period of time for them too.
It's proper name through there.
Yeah.
Category status.
Factor events. Yeah. Cromwell.
Well, football, yeah, by the look of it, the double edge at the beginning.
You think, like, to me, is tidying up that for the future leases.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, but.
Although it is used, isn't it, for campaign? When
Yeah,
they're
the
fencing.
thoughts that
Oh, yeah.
associated with events
Okay,
can happen to what happens now can still happen. It's not.
yeah, so it's not saying that any, yeah,
Yeah, it can't be a campground, yes. So.
Yeah. making sure there's capital letters, is that what we're doing
Yeah,
there?
and we don't, won't we?
That's
Is it any contingency down there?
Maybe some of the bigger land.
Fuck you, you could have a large one.
I know, yeah, sorry. Gordy is a bit dry. Just like the land. You can really take the people watching online too.
About the events. Because the same council and all the question club will do the events side of things, depending on that.
The formal approval required for events, but that doesn't, for the approval, is at the discretion of the council? And the club together.
So does that mean
And
party?
Depending on where it's going to be.
Oh, well, yeah, so in the
Yeah.
future plan, but at the
Yeah.
moment,
It's the.
it's the equestrian club, yeah. What's coming? Yeah, I think it's unnecessary. Yeah, that's the same. Yeah, very similar,
Yeah.
to above about, planning for events or approval for events, yeah. And that's just that reiterating that, yeah, but
Can I just ask a question? I think you skipped over it, Maria, at the beginning about the, use of fireworks on the reserve.
Prohibited.
Yeah,
That's the.
We have a spike up there.
we haven't got there
Yeah,
yet.
they're coming, but.
Well, my question was going to be, is there actually going to be a clause in there saying they are prohibited or
Yeah,
not?
we are completely prohibited. We heard the fishing community and the general community.
Yeah.
Clear.
Okay,
it was once upon a time used for fireworks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You want to think
I
of
believe so.
it? No, it was, yeah, early 2000s, late 90s, that the fireworks displays were out there.
I'm not a huge expansive Tinder drive, that's one.
Yeah. And with all those hidden spaces for local teenagers to run amok.
If I walked in access board.
So can be associated with the events.
It's just fine. Number two,
Yeah.
two. About sporting really is.
I think that all other forms of camping that are not.
And like
Yeah.
friends,
Grammar places.
Yeah.
Into the territory, sorry. Yeah.
That's good, I think. Yeah, about play,
Yeah,
want to do something at some point in the future.
seems sensible.
Okay, so just put it in there, just the other doesn't need to be there.
Yeah,
It's fireworks.
so
they're usually out of street, aren't they? Are not permitted. Yeah. Oh. Is it just fireworks displays are
The use of.
not permitted? No, that states it quite clear,
That's
yeah.
why.
Maybe just put fireworks.
Fireworks, yeah, not
Yeah.
displays, just fireworks. Just in case you have people who can.
Authorised or unauthorised use of.
Yeah, so
Firework use.
yeah,
or-
and
Yeah.
private fireworks in all circumstances, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you can't just, we're just a private user, it only says displays.
Dog.
What's the tangible outcome of referring back to the council's dog policy and dog control bylaw? There was feedback on people taking dogs and dogs wandering, but dog agility events is an established unit.
Yes, that's.
Number two.
It's been.
Yeah, but what about the other dogs in between?
So that'll dictate, whether they be on the, control or not allowed to do at all, so not allowed on sports grounds at all. Or on playgrounds, but things I can think of the policy at the minute, but I think that's getting reviewed this coming within the 12-month period.
Okay, so there's a review coming for that,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So what you can do is in that policy say, might be relevant to say except for the Cromwell Racecourse Reserve, or we could put it in here. But I'm just not sure what that is. It's about how do we prevent random wandering dog, if people come into any given event or just turning up with a dog.
So the reason why we've referred back to policy in the Bible is that when we're making decisions about dog rules, we're thinking about it in relation to all the reserves, because if we do it on an ad hoc basis, just one reserve at a time, then it could be easy to say no dogs, or these dogs are allowed, and we're not thinking about the bigger picture about whether there's the right spaces in the right towns.
Yeah, it's just, I guess it's a question about whether there's enough specific consideration in relation to the Cromwell Racecourse Reserve and the dog policy.
or maybe it's something when it comes round, something. What it means, I think that's what you're getting at. So what does it mean?
Yeah,
The race course, does it mean no dogs? Does it mean those two
Yeah.
lots of types of dog?
you can't say no dogs if dog agility is an established.
No,
Yeah, I guess the obvious part here too is that we recognise that, there are certain activities that are happening on the reserve that don't risk of having dogs going through the reserve, so we just have to be, we'll have to be pretty clear on what's allowed where. But that would happen in any of our reserves.
two things together and those sort of things, and they're quite interface type activities.
Just thinking like someone hires a building out there for a 5th birthday party and every second person turns up with a dog. Probably not appropriate, but is there controls in place around it?
I'm not sure.
I guess dogs probably wouldn't be allowed in buildings anyway to begin with. I wouldn't, so I guess the specific rules already for sports fields, so dogs aren't allowed on the sports field. But if you have dogs next to the sports field.
Let's clarify that for when it comes back.
Yeah, that would be great. If we could, yeah, for the September meeting, if we could make sure that we've been sent the dog policy, that would be great.
Well, it's probably just there on the website.
I know,
Probably, yeah,
but
we'll
these
put it
lovely
in
people can
context for
put it
this
in context.
reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the report. Yeah.
There's no changes
Yeah,
here.
there's no doubt. Questions there on the clubs.
Yeah.
What we did last week. Standing clauses there.
Mhm.
See.
There's,
This one is that. Assistant.
yes, maybe.
Yeah, so there's just building locations that are sort of consistent with the plan layout. Taking a delegated representative was not really a delegated representative decision. Right. So lighting, the district plan climate lighting and light still. Just referring to that.
Yeah, some capitalisation.
For the agency, so. Absolutely can't, it's no, it's not a consent, but.
Oh, he's probably got. Is it where? Okay. Oh, civil defence, not civil defence.
That's for helicopter landings outside the new helicopter pad,
Yeah.
because that's the yes, anyway. I think that's it. This is just, so, and if we missed some stuff, we've got some questions.
Just
for the
point
ones right now.
clarification with the admin in front of us is the Alpha Street and Anderson Park plans part of this agenda set of documents. It's not attached to that race course reserve stuff, is it?
So that though, not part of the racecourse reserve, no, we've made a separate recommendation that they just stay as they are. They were to use the opportunity to seek some feedback on that, because that would help us help. I guess the timeline of when the racecourse might need to be enacted. And clearly we've been told that they don't want to change on those, so. I believe that as they are. I think, yeah, there's nothing else to do with those at this stage.
So if we made the decision to attach them to the original draft plan as intended, so that we could then remove them once.
Yeah, so they're not part of the race course, is it? Yeah.
We use it to consult the same process to consult, because they're sort of linked in the sports sense.
Okay, so obviously the work that you've done there is to clean some things up, to remove some wording that was unnecessary, and also to take into account some of the things that we heard last week about user groups, about the equestrian users, and about making sure that it's really clearly understood that this is a future strategic direction, not a plan set in concrete. That obviously, as we get to the point where we consider that additional sports fields are needed, that we've now got this puts a plan in place that would help us to go, well, the Cromwell Racecourse Reserve Management Plan includes the provision of sports fields. Now we need to do that, all of that hard work that says where would be the best place, how do we mitigate the risk for other users and those considerations. Yeah. Anyone got further questions for Maria and Gordy? Pretty good. So that does take us back into our agenda and to the recommendations that are on page 11. No, they're not on page 11.
The screen.
They're on the screen. Page 11 is the last times. Page it is on.
18.
18. Yeah, it is.
That right, that's the end.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Okay. So I did forget to say that to go through the need to stand aside if there is a conflict of interest, and to declare that if you feel that need to step aside from decision making on an item. Right, the recommendations are in front of us. And the recommendations are that we receive the report and accept the level of significance as usual, that we receive and consider submissions to the draft Cromwell Racecourse Reserve Management Plan for 2025 and recommend amendments based on the community input and staff advice for inclusion into the final draft Reserve Management Plan, which will be presented at the board's September meeting. And C, recommend Anderson Park and Upper Street Reserve layouts remain the same. Now we know that there are still changes that are being made in accordance with the conversation that we've had today, that we've made changes in response to submissions, both written and verbal, that we've had with us for the last couple of weeks, and that the consideration for us all as we look at this is that this gives us strategic direction. We look at what the final iteration of that looks like in our September meeting before it goes to council, and then we will have a plan that helps us set a future direction. It doesn't have any actual concrete things. It has, here's some things that are a vision for what we could do in the future.
Does it see, with them not being part of this, do we actually need to go that far to have that in there though? Or
Yeah, I
Pardon?
think we need to tidy that up. We had submissions on that.
yeah,
I think
But
because
can
we
we
have
acknowledge
submissions
that
on it, that we need to, I think we need to put that there at this point, that recommend that at this point because people are looking for that. I think from the submissions that we heard verbally and those that we have read, there was a lot of concern about what was going to happen next with Alpha Street and and Anderson Park. And I think if they're not mentioned at all in these recommendations, it looks like we've just ignored that.
Should we say at this time, though, because there's a possibility that at a later date we might actually consider.
Well, we should. If we're going to do our job properly and consider the submissions, then what we actually need to do is go back and revisit what we've looked at. Now, quite clearly, we've been told that the scope of Anderson Park and Alpha Street aren't sufficient, and perhaps there's an option, and it wasn't in the scope of what we've done here. But I think it would be remiss to hear all of that and then just say we're going to leave it, because we are going to leave it. We're not taking things away, but we may well look to enhance potentially or rejig. Like we have looked at rejigging the rugby field. Obviously, we know that the sports club is on there, but
Yes, I think we're recommending that we don't do anything at the moment, but there will be some, you can ask us for a report, but there will be some reports coming in the next training to the information that is, we've taken notes for and stuff.
I get
Yeah,
that. Right.
I think that what Sarah is saying, does it need to say something else that flags that consideration about
Yeah.
future
Now
layouts?
triggered
Yeah.
the need for, because we know the scope of this actually not sufficient, because a lot of the things that we heard with the indoors, but we didn't have any of that within the scope, and we didn't look at that, and that wasn't really what this was doing for the race course. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't be considering as a board what we do need in the town, and I think there were things that were flagged there that have a lot of merit, that potentially a rejig at Anderson Park, or we're doing up the toilet, the change rooms at Alpha Street are done deal, aren't they? But that's in LTP funding, and with the lease coming to us,
Yeah, because I mean, we did have submissions on what Anderson Park could potentially look like in the future.
But Alpha Street, the toilets are going to, the change rooms, whether that building is being upgraded. I don't want it to look like we've just said, thank you very much. We're going to go right ahead with what we've done actually, and we're going to leave them as they are. So don't panic, rugby club. We're not taking your field away, but we're also not doing anything. I would like to acknowledge how much we have done towards that, and I would hope that we're going to pick that up now. We've got that feedback, and we're going to.
So maybe we say something that we were at this stage in the staff are requested to bring a report back on future options for.
Yeah.
those
I'd like to see.
Yeah,
Something
put it
about
development to both websites.
Yeah.
those sites.
Yeah. And not detrimental development there.
Yeah, because we had to put it in, then actually funded it, wasn't it?
Exactly. I feel like that at the start of this paper, that a lot of the submissions were based on don't take it from here to there.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily want to do that either.
Does it just need to recommend Anderson Park and Alpha Street reserves lay Anderson Park, i.e. 2 rugby grounds remain? Is that, because that is the.
Because that's the crux of it. They wanted 2 full rugby fields.
2 full rugby fields remain.
Well, do we need to actually say that, because it's saying remains the same? Well, there's 2 rugby fields there at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that a report.
But requests a future report.
You could, and notes the submissions on the demands of
Yeah.
those 2 fields.
And
Yeah.
but notes the submissions on the demands on the 2 fields.
Yeah.
To be addressed in a future report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be. And then it's in there, and we've got something to act on, and then whoever is sitting here in the next training, if it's none of us, at least we've put that in there to say, keep it moving, because I think there's so much that came out of that. We don't need to reinvent the wheel with those questions. And we asked something that was quite a specific lane, and as soon as we went to that consultation, and the schools got that
And
in,
Alpha Street remains and
no, we actually should have asked the bigger question, and we can't need to do this, but we really need to, but that's the thing to look at as well. How we do that, what do we do?
We go locations, these 2 locations.
2 locations. Noting submissions on demand on these 2 locations and request a future report.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pardon?
Given.
Future report to the board
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think there's some really interesting stuff that came out of,
Yeah.
from our submitters,
Yeah, no, you're right.
particularly on Anderson Park,
Yeah.
and we want to capture their expertise, because
And we
there
don't,
are some people who are-
we don't want to waste money asking the
No.
same questions in a slightly different format, because now the scope of reference has changed. Like, we've got that information, let's go and look at how we cast the net next time, and that might inform the questions we ask, or the people we ask, or whatever that consultation is. But I
Yeah,
think that's valid, that is, if anything, that is probably needed prior to the reserve
Yeah,
activation
right.
there.
yeah,
You know, the race course is probably further, if we got Anderson Park right, we made sure those rugby fields right, could get out the street right with the changing rooms. Potentially, we actually delay what we need to do at the
Yeah.
race course.
So that's right.
yeah, absolutely.
And just know there's sort of no budget for anything in this right now.
There's never a budget.
We understand that, but that's why we keep on saying this is very much a future focus,
Yeah.
when there's demand, when there's budget, when there's the opportunity to work with stakeholders to make sure we've got it right.
Yeah.
This is a future vision of what we could
This is
potentially
the
do.
council take that.
Yeah.
We are under no illusion that there's a pot of money down the back of the couch. Look at the model.
But we also acknowledge the need for reserves to have management plans, which is what this process has been about. It's become about where the sports field's going to go, but actually it's about how do we manage.
Yeah, and giving ourselves those options, we do,
That might be a refresh of the, sports park management plans, which had both of those.
Yeah,
let's get.
yeah, so there might be another
Might be a
management plan
refresh
to come.
out there.
Yeah, and that would be useful.
Yes, so you know how much we love working with these really big documents.
Yeah.
Right home, so there are our recommendations, with C has been updated to say recommend Anderson Park and Alpha Street Reserve layouts remain the same, noting the submissions on the demand on these two locations and request a future report to the board. Righty home,
I'm happy with that, and I've moved that to the cops.
thank you, and a second,
I'll
thank
second
you,
that.
Bob, all in favour? Anyone against? Carried.
Good
Very
job.
much.
Lots of words. Stuff.
Thank you, and the date of our next meeting is Tuesday, the 16th of September.
And I apologise.
So you might be here online.
Oh, yeah, it's not.
Pardon?
After.
Closing the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Maria. Great job.
Well done.